Hello, welcome to my first ever Get Ready With Me. I've literally never done one of these before, mostly because I've always been a gym channel. Like, do people ever really care about that? But I've actually been getting a lot of requests from my female audience to do a makeup tutorial or something. So I'm getting ready and I'm just gonna show you what I do, just because in the theme of, doing makeup and whatever. My struggle with kind of relating to other women online, girlhood in general, as a girl who lifts, as somebody who is neurodivergent, we'll get into that. But starting off, oh my god, I can actually do this now. Yes. Elf primer, put my makeup on, go to the gym. Granted, I don't really sweat that much, but that stays on like the whole day. Another kind of weird thing that I do, I put on powder before I even put on like any concealer or anything like that, just because I wear sunscreen every day. Anytime I wash my face, I'm wearing sunscreen, and I honestly think it's made the biggest difference in my skin. Had to learn very quickly take care of my skin without just doing the bare minimum. Surprisingly, doing the bare minimum is actually what has made the most difference for me. I have like 3 or 4 solid products that I use, and I go online on like TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and people have these like 10-step routines, and it's like a whole bunch of serums and things that personally I don't feel like really do anything. What's always worked is cleanser, moisturizer, sunscreen, exfoliating 2 to 3 times a week, and then once a week I shave my face so I don't look like I have like a black outline. And it makes my makeup go on smoother, makes my skincare go on smoother, so it kind of helps all that along. And then also it exfoliates at the same time. That is what I do for skincare. But it's not just that, I also follow, ever since I was like 12 and I was watching Bub's Beauty Online and Michelle Phan. I actually read Michelle Phan's book when I was like 11, in the age of YouTuber books. The immigrant beauty secrets, it's a real thing, especially in my culture. Like, I'm Indian. My mom would massage oil into my hair every once in a while, but I didn't really appreciate it until I got older. And my hair is pretty thin. I don't have typical, like, thicker Indian hair. And my hair gets very greasy. I have layers, and so when you grow out layers, it kind of just weighs down your hair, and it's like thin up here, and then it just like is a big ball down here. So I had to learn how to oil my hair properly like I did when I was a kid, or like my mom used to do for me. Girlhood, growing up. I didn't really realize how many of these issues just had to do with the fact I am a neurodivergent gal. I didn't really realize that until I got diagnosed about a year ago. And once I got diagnosed, that started me on the whole path of doing my own research and figuring out how my brain works and answering all of these kind of, childhood questions that I had never really answered for myself. Growing up, you're going through it, and you're like, well, I can focus on things when I want to, and if I'm interested, I'll focus on things, so I don't think it's a lack of focus. And I would look at other people in class and think, man, how are these people paying attention? I even do the same thing now. Like, I see people paying attention in class, and I'm like, it's the most boring subject ever. And I'm like, how are you doing this? How do you not have to force yourself like the way I have to, It's like all these little behavioral things that as you grow older and you get diagnosed, and I was starting lifting, and I was finding my community and finding myself, right? And you realize that maybe that wasn't completely my fault. Like maybe I had certain social issues that I just needed to learn. Like, for some people, they can just do that totally naturally. They can just be whoever they want to be naturally. For me, it was never like that. For me, it was like everybody got the memo except for me, especially when it came to being social. Middle school, high school, beginning of college. Up until like last year, I'm even gonna say, it was like me trying to figure out the puzzle of being a girl and how to act as a girl socially. So I was really close to my brother growing up. I had girlfriends who I'm still really close with, and it wasn't their fault. It was just me not really knowing who I was because of my ADHD and having nobody around me to really relate to in that way, to kind of guide me. I never had like a older female role model except for a friend I used to have, and then we had a falling out. So I didn't really, other than my mom, when you're a kid, sometimes you just kind of want somebody your own age. Nothing wrong with my mom, but as a kid, that's just naturally what you're gonna want. You want to socialize with people who kind of act like you. I got older. I only got diagnosed about 1 or 2 years ago. I feel like I'm gonna say 1, but I think it's probably 2 at this point, which is crazy to me that I just went my whole life like raw dogging it without any help. But middle school, I started crew. Crew is rowing, for those of you who don't know. In crew, there is a position called the coxswain. And what the coxswain does, sit in the boat, either the front or the back, kind of depends on what kind of boat it is. They sit there they direct. You're kind of like a mini coach. So you're running practice, your coach is near side you on like what's called a launch boat. So it's like this motorized boat and they're shouting things to you. But for a lot of it, you kind of have to run everything yourself. And your job is to relay information to the rowers. So that was my job. And I did this on, but it was below varsity. It was called novice. And I did that on the novice girls team for a couple of years. And then here and there, they would fill me in on the novice boys team. And I always had so much more fun on the novice boys team. A lot of my closest friends even now were on the novice girls team. So it wasn't that I hated the team, but there was a stronger sense of like my sense of humor, my weirdness that I kind of had to cover up a little bit when I was on the girls team. I didn't really have to think about that when I was on the boys team. And so I started filling in here and there. I filled in for a couple of races and I just felt closer with them. They invited me to like their events, like they would have fun little like get-togethers before races back in high school, like beginning of high school, like those were fun. And I didn't have to explain myself, or I didn't have to like backtrack after I made a quick joke or something like that, because everybody else was kind of just as weird as me. So that finished, I go on to the varsity girls team. Just had a horrible, horrible time. This was really the moment where I felt like maybe I don't fit in with girls the way that I think I do. Like the sense of humor was so different. I was like quiet all the time, and I'm not a quiet person, but that's how I felt like I needed to be when I was around them. And so that kept going for a bit. It was really sad, you know, because crew is not a sport where you don't spend a lot of time with your team in practice. Like you don't just go home. We drive 25 minutes to practice, there for 3 hours, you come back home. I had a lot of work to do, go to sleep, go to school, do it again. Most of my life, high school life, right? Like most of my day was stuck in that feeling of like, man, I just don't belong, and like, what's wrong with me? You know, and I'm looking back, it's so sad. Like I wish I could just give myself a hug and be like, there is nothing wrong with you. You are fine, actually. You know, that was kind of the first moment where I realized that, hey, something about me may be different, and that doesn't mean in a cool way of like, oh, I'm different and I'm better. It was in a way of like, I'm different, but I wish I wasn't, you know, because I had known about the connotations of like hanging out with a bunch of guys and like what people, society thinks of people like that. And I get that. And I think if I was a neurodivergent, that's probably what I would think as well. Like, oh, you just want attention. Being South Asian, it's like, you don't just go and hang out with the boys team all the time. You're normal. That's not how things work. I am not loving this, so I'm just gonna go try out the boys team. If I don't like it, I don't care. I'm just gonna quit this sport. So this is like 4 years in, and I hated the girls team, and some of those girls were really nice to me. Like some of those girls, like I even keep in contact with now just because they were so kind to me, and they never made me feel left out. And I go to this boys team and I just have the time of my life. So this is where my personality, I think, really began, because I had just never been so accepted on that level before, or encouraged to be silly. You know, all of that little stuff that I never really got to experience as a kid, of feeling accepted, like truly, truly accepted, and feeling like not only am I accepted, but I have something to offer. And I struggled, you know, like I don't remember directions well, and that's kind of your entire job as a coxswain. I really, really enjoyed myself that last couple years that I was on that team, and a lot of those guys I am friends with for life. And I am lucky to have parents who were understanding, and they saw how miserable I was when I was on that girls team, and they saw that change in me. Like, should she be on a team with all guys? Like, you're really okay with that, you know? So that was good. I had their support, but that is where most of my social personality was formed, I would say, because it's like I'm 17, 18, like those are your formative teenage years, right? So I graduate, and like these are my closest people. Everybody tells you like, oh, you gotta be so excited for college, like it's new and it's different, and you're like, I'm gonna do so much stuff, and I'm gonna go out and like all this fun stuff. And then I went to college and I felt the same thing. So, you know, in freshman year, I would try going out with girls that I knew from high school, and again, nothing wrong with anybody, but I felt like I had to turn on this hey girly personality, you know, like it wasn't me. And part of that came with this kind of resentment of other women, just because I resented them for not understanding me. And when I was bullied growing up, like those same girls are now texting me like, oh my god, like what you're doing is amazing, like all of this. And I'm like, you remember how you treated me? Like, do you remember that? Because I remember that. So there's just this deep feeling of like rejection from other women, specifically like neurotypical women, especially, just because I felt like the only way that I could have like a female friend group is if I turned on this hey girly personality like 24/7, and that's not who I am. It's totally different now, and we'll get to that, but at that freshman year, it's like brain is always going, you know. This is before I had medication, so my brain is just unrelentless. Like I'm struggling in school, I'm struggling with everything, and I can't even like fit in with other girls without feeling exhausted at the end of the day, like just feeling absolutely exhausted from this masking all the time. It wasn't until I got really into self-development at some point. I was a huge fan of Sneeko. This is before he like started hating women and went crazy, but I was part of that slim female audience. And most of his videos were like, hey, I'm flawed and I have ADHD. This is before I even knew I had ADHD. He was like, hey, I have all these weird things about me. At least I admit it. You know, like at least I'm not boring. And that I take accountability for my own life. And up until that point, I kind of fell into the hole letting the views of other people get to me. So like, even if nobody even said anything to me, I'm like, people are thinking this about me and people are thinking this about me, because I'd heard all sorts of things said about me in high school when I was on that boys team. I would kind of tell myself like, hey, girls don't like you. Like, this is just a fact. You know, I told it to myself like it was a fact. It turned from a slow kind of simmering resentment to just straight up like, you know what, I don't want to be friends with girls. Like not in a pick-me way, but just I've been rejected so many times. I have been passed over so many times. I've been made fun of so many times by other women. I have been judged so much by other women. And the only time I felt any remote acceptance or happiness has been around mostly male friend groups. And so that's how I went into college. So I went into college that way, which is, you know, not a fun way to think. And I joined the powerlifting team, which again is a totally similar dynamic, right? One of very few girls on a team full of men. The other two girls on the team didn't like me, so once again I'm like, see, I was right, women don't like me. I will never have a women friend group. You know what, I don't want one anyways because they judge me, they're not receptive to me, and they just don't understand me. And that's like half of my college experience was in that kind of mode of like, you know what, women don't want me, like, women don't want me, women don't want to be friends with me, fine, I don't want to be friends with you either. But the reason I brought up Sneeko was because it was the turning point of when I stopped being like, everybody hates me because of this, and it was more like, well, what am I really doing to combat how I feel about this? Am I reaching out and talking to people? No, I'm getting upset from not reaching out and nobody reaching out to me. Like, I wasn't doing what I wanted to see. So I made a challenge for myself. I was like, every time I feel the urge to not want to do something, I'm gonna do it. And that's what ended up changing my life. So I went from somebody with complete social anxiety, like totally couldn't, you know, learn how to be social and just kind of angry and mad at the world. And at this time, a lot of self-improvement online was just preaching, be a lone wolf, up your friends, like, and I bought into that because isolating yourself is easier than admitting that there is a problem going on. And all the female self-improvement I saw was just like so looks-based, and I think even now it's still looks-based. How to be hot. Here's how to be a hot girl. And hot girls don't just look good, they do this, this, and this. Like, that's what I see now, which is better. I feel like it's still so connected to how we look. Like, hot girls take care of their skin like this. Hot girls, why do we have to define it so strictly that way? And that's why I kind of resonated with male self-improvement more, because maybe now it's different. Now they're talking about looks maxing and like, you know, you should take care of how you look and this and that. But it was pretty universal type of message. It was not like, here's how to act to be a hot girl. You know, okay, we're kind of taking back the term hot for like whatever we deem as hot, which is like working hard and like all of this cool, fun, new things. But male self-improvement to me just felt so much simpler. It was like, suffer more so you can be better. Suffer more in terms of do the things that are uncomfortable and you'll feel better. And it worked for me. It really did work. It took me like my whole life up, and I feel like only now I'm kind of hitting my stride with where I'm at with myself, because having ADHD, growing up neurodivergent, I felt like I missed a memo. Everybody knows how to act a certain way and I don't. Like, how do people just know what to say without thinking about it like a billion times, you know? How do you not think about every sentence that you're saying and how it's gonna come across, and like, how are you not thinking like that? Because that's how I think. It is exhausting to think that way. I don't think we were meant to think that way. And it takes away from more important things in life, but I'm spending all of that fight or flight energy on what's the perfect thing to say in response to this, and I'm gonna come across like this, and all of this extra thinking that I feel like most people don't do. And even now I kind of have to do that. And I wish I could just tell myself back then that like, hey, not only are you gonna become the person that you dreamed of, but you're gonna find a way to be comfortable with yourself and have a lot of friends without compromising that crazy part of you that I associate, I think, now with my ADHD. Like that masking part of me that I would usually just like put off to the side. Like, I'm so comfortable with myself now that I don't even feel the need to like cover that up or apologize for it. It's like, here's me, take it if you want it. If you don't, that's fine. But it breaks my heart to know, like, I don't think I've had this experience just myself. I think this is a lot of girls, and they just will never talk about it because they feel like nobody else kind of understands that. And it sounds like you don't like other women when you say this. Like, no, like the opposite. It's like, I just wanted to fit in. Like, I just wanted to be the same. I just wanted to be the same. And I was never the same. And my first mistake was thinking that I was the same. And not in terms of like better or worse, just in terms of my brain works completely differently. And that's my issue with female self-improvement. That is my issue. I feel like it's so rooted in consumerism and here's how to be hot, and it has so much to do with like looks. That is drilled into us as what femininity is to sell us more products, but the girlhood that I'm experiencing now for the first time in my life, and not because of the people around, like my friends from back home did so much for me growing up, but this is the first time where I'm actually like, I feel more comfortable with myself as a person to open myself up to more things. And in high school and middle school, I was just not like that. You know, that's not any fault of anyone else, that was just me. But yeah, I'm at a point where I'm confident in myself and I feel good about myself. On top of that, I have other neurodivergent girlfriends and I don't have to think. I just don't have to think about anything. I can just be. I can do that with my friends back home. I can still do that, but it's something special I've never experienced, which is just complete acceptance from other women. And I can't tell you. And I'm literally that friend that's like, guys, like, I need this, like, you guys have helped me so much, like, I'm that friend, like, while everybody's hanging out who will say it, just because it's done so much for me to just have that support that isn't so male-centric, and to talk about stereotypically, like, girly things, like me getting ready, like, doing my makeup, like, all of that superficial stuff. It's cool to just be able to, like, be and have that space. Usually I just, like, done my makeup alone, or let's all hang out and just, like, bake together and, like, talk to each other about what we've been through, and it's so girly and it's so beautiful. And I'm finally in a space now where, thank God, I've escaped the pick-me that I was my first couple years of college and for most of my life, and that wasn't any fault of mine. It was just, I was around so many men all the time. I was just like, I still am sometimes, but those were like my only people. So obviously, yeah, I'm gonna become a pick-me because I harbored this deep resentment of other women, and that stemmed from the rejection that I've felt from other women growing up. And it's like those same people who I felt rejected from are now reaching out and like talking to me, and it's great, but at the same time I'm like, would you be reaching out to me if I didn't have this big fitness account, you know? Like, are you sure you'd be reaching out to me? Like, even though I was like pretty messed up as a kid, like, it was really to myself, and like you can't expect everybody to reach out to you, be the one to reach out to you all the time. But I would like to think that my younger ADHD-filled self deserved to be loved. Like, that's not a crazy thing to say, you know? And unfortunately, I just didn't have that for the longest time. But on the flip side of it, it's like now that I do have it, it's such a beautiful, beautiful feeling, because I've known what it's like to not have that and to feel shunned. And I think what's really helped with this is just finding other women who are also neurodivergent. Because I don't have to explain myself. They get it. Like, they get it when I'm super overwhelmed, and instead of reaching out, I just ghost everyone just because I'm so exhausted that it takes me even more energy to like reach out to people. Just simple things that I don't really have to explain, and I don't understand something. Like, if I don't understand how to do a certain girl thing or whatever, like, they'll explain it to me with so much love. Like, how cool is that, you know? Just to feel seen and accepted and not have your friendships be dependent on men, which at the end of the day, they'll never truly understand my experience. I like to contour my dimple, by the way. Okay, I'm gonna go do my extensions and I'm gonna come back to you. And here is final look. I have flip-in extensions in. These are from TikTok shop. I got them for like 20 bucks. The back is none of my business. I'm wearing this top, nothing too exciting, and then a leather jacket over it because I live in New England and that's how it works here. Point of this video, if you're a neurodivergent girly, or even if you're not, and you have never really felt accepted by other women, don't give up hope. I'm experiencing this for the first time. I'm 21 years old and I haven't felt that ever in my life, and there is a space for you, and there are people who will accept you, and there's not something wrong with you, and you don't need to be a pick-me, you don't need all the stuff. You just need to keep doing the things you do, and the people who are attracted to that will come to you. You are what you attract. But I hope you like this video, kind of different from anything I've ever done. Also realized I didn't really show you guys my makeup products after the primer. Whatever, I don't care. I still did it. So if you guys like that, and let me know if you want more of these. Again, I'm a lifting channel. I know this is a little bit different, but I hope you liked it.